Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Hodlnots weekly warm-up. I'm John.
I'm Vicky.
Let's get into some of the crypto news and headlines, making news and headlines over the last few days.
Yes, and Bitcoin recovers to about 67,400 after dipping below 65,200 as Houthis enters the Iran war. So the escalation this time came from multiple directions simultaneously. Iran-backed Houthis forces entered the conflict, opening a new front beyond the direct US-Israeli-Iran theater. Additional US troops arrived in the Middle East, fanning fears of ground operations. So Bitcoin dipped to 65,112-ish early this morning, its lowest level since February crash, before recovering to 67,400 as Asian markets opened. So the 24-hour range of 65,112 to about 67,389, depending on what exchange you're looking at, reflects a market that sold hard on overnight escalation headlines and found buyers near 65,000, a level that has been tested since the war's opening weekend 5 weeks ago. So Ethereum recovered 2% to about 2,044. Solana gained about 0.9% to 83.48, and XRP added 1.4% to 1.35. So the 24-hour green across the board masks a rougher week picture, though, because Bitcoin is still down 1% on the week, Ethereum 0.9%, and XRP 1.9%. Solana is down 3.7%. So Tron is actually the bright spot, however, sitting green, up 2.6% in a day and 4.6% on the week. And just quietly, we saw that on the HODL Fire graduate call. So yay, Tron. So Brent crude rose 2.5% to around $115 a barrel, now up roughly 90% year to date. Asian equities fell sharply, with South Korea's benchmark down 3.2% on a technology stock sell-off, and Japan's Nikkei dropped 3.4%. S&P 500 futures paired losses and were trading roughly flat, suggesting some stabilization after an initial reaction. So the war seems to be affecting crypto and everything else in the world at the moment.
Absolutely. It is an interesting time, ladies and gents, and we remind you to always trade what you see. All right. There are opportunities abound, but we'll have a look at Bitcoin in a short while. Heading over to the States, let's talk about the US crypto czar that has stepped on and that is now transitioning to a broader advisory role. So David Sachs, he's revealed that he's finished his stint as US President Donald Trump's top crypto and AI advisor in light of a recent announcement that the former crypto czar will co-chair a new council tasked with shaping US innovation policy. So Sachs told Bloomberg on March 27th that he'd reached the allowed limit for being retained by the White House as a special government employee. He says, in the first year of the Trump administration, I had a role as an SGE, the special government employee. I had 130 days. We've now used up that time. Sachs is a prominent entrepreneur and a venture capitalist, part of the so-called PayPal mafia. He's been a driving force behind the crypto market structure bill, aka the Clarity Act, which we covered in weeks gone by, which is yet to be passed into law and is still being hotly debated. Now, Sachs was appointed on March 26th as co-chair of the new president's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, and said that the new role would be how he would be involved in the administration going forward. He says, I can now make recommendations on not just AI, but an expanded range of technology topics, he added. So, who's going to be filling those shoes? Well, we'll tell you more in the next time. Vicky.
Yeah, and still within the US. So a bipartisan bill targets political betting by federal officials. So, a bipartisan bill introduced on March 25 would bar senior federal officials and their families from trading on prediction markets linked to political events or government actions. This comes as lawmakers respond to growing evidence of informed trading on platforms such as Kalshi and Polymarket. The PREDICT Act, introduced by Representative Adrian Smith, a Nebraskan Republican, and Representative Nikki Budzinski, an Illinois Democrat, would apply to members of Congress, the president, the vice president, political appointees, senior executive branch officials above GS-15, military officers at O7 and above, and judicial officials. So spouses and dependent children will also be covered. Smith said public service should not become a way to profit from privileged information. This comes as, at the same time, Canada moves to ban crypto donations in politics amid transparency concerns. So, quite frankly, about time, because interesting how people on salaries are now billionaires. Not
Absolutely.
saying anything,
Insider trading is a little thing, but glad to see that everybody's
allegedly.
trying to keep it intact there. And yes, Canada now following the UK as well. So interesting times that we're living in, ladies and gents, as you know, AI is coming into the fore and regulations and everything else, especially with prediction markets. Uh, it's good to see this kind of regulation in play. Now, talking about being in play, well, the whales and the sharks. Kind of sounds like rugby in a way, but the whales and sharks in terms of crypto have bought up to about 61,000 of Bitcoin in the last month amid global uncertainty. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Well, large Bitcoin holders have accumulated 61,568 more Bitcoin over the past months against the backdrop of escalating conflict in the Middle East and macroeconomic uncertainty. Now, whales and sharks, defined as those holding between 10 and 10,000 Bitcoin, have increased their holdings by 0.45%, while wallets with under 0.01 Bitcoin, do the math, have added 0.42% or 213 Bitcoin over the past month, according to Sentiment. Now, these figures support recent data showing that Bitcoin exchange outflows have persisted through March, indicating that Bitcoin holders are accumulating rather than looking to sell. Now, sentiment analysts have added that whale accumulation could be a promising sign of an eventual breakout from the current range. Now, according to one of the analysts saying, ideally, the ranging pattern will break upwards when large wallets are accumulating while retail is dumping. This has historically been a very reliable pattern to signal the start of bull cycles. Well, again, trade what you see, right, ladies and gents? Well, we can have a look at Bitcoin shortly, and things are starting to shape up. Not anytime soon, but they are getting there. Let's head into the next story.
Yeah, once again, we're going to go back to the States and Coinbase and another company called Better Home and Finance because they've lost a crypto-backed mortgage product. So, like I said, Coinbase Global and Better Home and Finance Holdings on Thursday announced the launch of token-backed mortgages. So, this is for everyone in the US. The product enables Americans who qualify for a mortgage with Better Homes pledge Bitcoin or USDC as collateral to fund their cash down payment. The benefit includes if Bitcoin drops in value, the mortgage terms remain unchanged and no additional collateral is required. So token-backed mortgages let borrowers secure standard conforming mortgages without liquidating tokenized assets or potentially triggering a taxable event. So Better was founded to make home ownership more accessible for all Americans, and this partnership with Coinbase introduces a new pathway to realizing the American dream for the 52 million Americans who own digital assets. And that was said by the Better CEO, Vishal Garg. So slowly but surely, crypto is creeping into everything.
Absolutely. Now, as per my previous story, talking about the 61,000 Bitcoin being accumulated by whales and sharks, didn't include Bitcoin treasury companies. Now, most of them have gone quiet, except for one. Now, Strategy, yes, of course, led by Michael Saylor, is the only institution aggressively buying Bitcoin in the current bear market, leading to a one buyer market, according to a report from CryptoQuant. Now, while Strategy has acquired 45,000 Bitcoin in the last 30 days, other companies have seen a significant decline in the Bitcoin purchases, resulting in Strategy holding approximately 76% of all Bitcoin held by Bitcoin treasury companies. This concentration of demand raises concerns about centralization in the industry, despite Bitcoin's goal of decentralization. Now, it ties in very nicely into last week's Hodlnots Happy Hour Hangout, where we debated some topics and we have spoken about the BlackRock paradox. Maybe it should be renamed the strategic paradox. But yes, are we still decentralized if whales or large institutions are holding most of the decentralized cryptocurrencies? Interesting topic. We will be talking more about this in the future. Meanwhile, strategy, they keep on going on. Vicky.
We sure will be talking more about it. And even companies that aren't necessarily buying crypto outright are in the news. And this next segment is about a company that you might not think about very often in the crypto space, but it's NVIDIA. So court allows NVIDIA class action over hidden crypto revenue. So the SEC fined NVIDIA $5.5 million for not disclosing how crypto mining affected its revenue, forming part of the backdrop to the class action. So a U.S. district court has allowed a class action lawsuit against NVIDIA and the CEO to proceed following investors' claims that over 1 billion of the company's crypto revenue was actually hidden in its gaming offering. So during 2017 to 2018, NVIDIA misled investors by having them believe they were buying its gaming GPUs. However, the sales were actually tied to the crypto market. And once prices began falling, the firm was left with a lot of unsold inventory that caused its stock to plummet. So the tech giant also failed to prove that its statement on crypto mining revenue did not affect the firm's stock price. So I think a lot of things are catching up with some of these companies now.
Absolutely. And I think
Mhm.
they can hide things under the carpet. But again, there's a lot of focus on crypto and regulation and legal frameworks at the moment. So everybody should get up to date on that. Now, speaking of getting up to date, nice little segue. Brazil. Right? They are passing a law that is allowing seized crypto assets to be used for public security. No, crypto for good. Lovely story. Brazil's public security agencies have a new weapon for fighting organized crime after national legislators approved a measure allowing them to use confiscated cryptocurrency in their efforts. On Wednesday last week, Brazil's legislative branch published law number 15.358, establishing a legal framework for combating organized crime. The law allows authorities to prohibit transactions on crypto exchanges by treating digital assets as instruments in a crime and confiscate crypto to be used to fund public security. Now, one of their spokespeople have said, for the purpose of forfeiture of assets, any asset that has been used to commit a crime shall be considered an instrument of the crime, even if it was not intended exclusively for that purpose. This is one of the translations of the law. The forfeited asset and valuables may be used provisionally by public security agents for police re-equipment, training, and special operations, subject to authorization from a judge overseeing the execution of the sentence. Now, notably, the law would authorize Brazil to coordinate and cooperate with international authorities for investigation and asset recovery. Now, this is also including cases potentially having digital assets. With a population of more than 213 million people, many of them who use crypto, the legislation could have significant implications for the Brazilian government's war chest. Well done, Brazil. And I hope a lot of other countries also take this to heart and put this into play. Because obviously crime is a major thing in many, many countries. And if these assets, provided a country like South Korea doesn't lose them, would be used for good. All right, let's get into the
I
last one.
was, I was actually going to reference South Korea as well because poor South Korea. So this is not a story about South Korea, but it is a story about Ireland and the Irish police, who probably could show South Korea a thing or two, within the crypto space at least, because Irish police have recovered $35 million worth of Bitcoin from a drug dealer's lost wallet. So, Irish authorities have reportedly accessed one of the 12 long dormant Bitcoin wallets belonging to convicted drug dealer Clifton Collins. So on March 24, police transferred 500 Bitcoin worth around $35 million to Coinbase in a single on-chain transaction, a move that was flagged by blockchain intelligence firm Arkham as the first confirmed recovery in a case that has frustrated investigators since 2017. So, just as a bit of a backstory, Collins once ran a large scale cannabis growing house in the Dublin area and used his drug profit to buy around 6,000 Bitcoin, wait for it, in 2011 and 2012 when they were worth just $4 and $6 per Bitcoin. So, as a basic precaution, good for him, against theft, he split his stash equally across 12 wallets, with each holding about 500 Bitcoin each. He then printed the private keys on paper and hid them inside an aluminium cap of a fishing rod at his rented property. So, years later in 2017, Irish police stopped Collins in County Galway for a routine traffic check, upon which they found a large amount of cannabis in his vehicle, leading to his arrest and sparking a wider investigation. He ended up being sentenced to 5 years in prison, with a judge ruling that his Bitcoin holdings were the proceeds of crime and ordering him to forfeit them. But however, during his ordeal with the law, the drug dealer's landlord apparently cleared the property where he had hidden the papers and his private keys, discarding Collins's belongings, including the fishing gear, which was reportedly sent abroad or destroyed. Apparently not all of them, because they were able to recover one. So let's see if they can recover the other 11 that are still missing.
Yeah, clearly they're still fishing for clues around all of that.
No,
Moving on from the
marvelous.
crypto news, let's have a quick look at what the Fear and Greed Index is still showing us. Tell us more.
Yeah, so over the past few months, the Bitcoin or the crypto fear and greed index has predominantly been in extreme fear, as we've seen, and which was really kind of expected because it plunged about 50% in the months from the October all-time high to the February bottom. So there was some relief in the last 10 days or so, though, when Bitcoin went up to about 76,000 on March 18th, and later it went to about 72,000. But really, the subsequent rejection drove it south once again, which we're seeing, and it's dropped to 65,500 on Friday for the first time since the beginning of the month. So this meant that Bitcoin was once the top performing non-oil asset after the war began in Iran, but it's now erased almost all of its gains within that period from then till now. So the fear and greed index right there has followed suit, and it's backed down to extreme levels, and it's currently showing 9. So it really hasn't had a chance to get out of that extreme fear for very long, and it doesn't look like it's going to. But as John is just about to show, it's good to know what the market's doing, but at Hodlnots, we see it and trade it. So, or trade what you see. So let's see what we're seeing at the moment.
Absolutely. So, during periods of extreme fear, a lot of people, the adage says go and buy, right? So at the moment, Bitcoin has been in this channel for quite some time. Which is interestingly enough, because the story that Vicky touched on earlier, Bitcoin breaking down to 65,200, that support has been there since the 12th of February. And a number of times it's touched on that. And again, for Hodlnots, using your Hodlnots indicator, you're able to see, let me just hide these lines quick to make it a little clearer. You can see that it's been retesting certain areas and certain indicators. And this is where we're currently at today. So when we spoke about it last week, Monday, I'd mentioned as well, would have to close up above the 72, 73,000 range, definitely 75. But got rejected along the way, as you can see with downtrending indicators. Now, at the moment, we're sitting underneath this, and I can imagine that this week is again yet to be a little bit of topsy-turvy unless we have some really good volume coming in, not just from the whales and the sharks and retail. But I'm anticipating that this week is going to be a little tricky unless we can see again Bitcoin closing at least around the 73, 74. And then what we're going to need to see is it then start to break upwards. But Things are starting to slow down. Hodlnots and even the Hodl graduates as well. You know what these indicators are, these colored lines. And you can see that this is starting to slowly slow down a little. And I think we're going to still be expecting quite a bit of choppiness over the next couple of weeks, in my opinion. There's nowhere, no time soon are we going to be retesting up past here. And again, that's psychological. But it is in this accumulation area now for the last, nearly 2 months. And this might go on for a little bit longer, but again, we're going to trade what we see. Again, for those of you who are using the neon green HODL Fire or the HODL Fire itself, and you're following along this, you could be accumulating and, perhaps farming Bitcoin along the way. You could be doing the same thing with Solana, Ethereum, and everything else. But again, there are a bunch of these coins. You might notice some of them have got some colored flags in again. And some of these we've been trading for the last couple of months and weeks, and ones that we are watching in terms of making profits in a couple of hours, like a day or two. And this is the beauty of the HODL Fire, and of course, on scalp trading as well. So we're getting into the next section here, talking about what kind of calls are coming up ahead for those in the Hodlnots ecosystem, not just the large. So what kind of week do we have up ahead for everybody there?
Yeah, the week is a fairly similar one to our normal weeks, but there is one exception, which John will actually tell you about. I'm not going to tell you about it, but it does start the week off like usual with our self-paced course call at 12 p.m. UTC today for everyone that's doing the self-paced course, and you can jump on. Chapters 1 to 3 will answer any questions that you have on that. And it's always nice to see people because we don't see a lot of you that are doing the self-paced course because it is self-paced. It's not live. So it's nice for you to jump on and have a little chat with us. And then tomorrow there is another self-paced call at 4 a.m. UTC, and that's for anyone who is on any chapter or module. So you can jump on there and ask any questions that you have. And that is followed by Wendy's call in the lodge, as usual, at 6 a.m. UTC. And she always has a nice topic that has been actually put in the lodge for that one. And then we do have a HODL Fire indicator call today, or on this week, on Tuesday at 12 p.m. UTC. So that is for anyone who has the HODL Fire indicator, can jump on there. It is a webinar. It's not a call. So you can actually jump on, see what we're trading, ask some questions in the Q&A, but that's for anyone that has the HODL Fire indicator at 12 p.m. UTC on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, just quietly for all of the graduates and the call. So our HODL Fire graduates, we probably will have an extra call for you on Wednesday, not scheduled, but we'll have a chat with that. We'll put it in your chat as well, so you know. And then that will be followed at 8 p.m. on Wednesday by a HODL dot call. So this is for our scalpers in Hodlnots. So anyone that's doing the 3M challenge, and that's when you take $40 and turn it into 2,500, and you get help along the way. It is a self-paced challenge, but you do get help. And the first of the HODL dot calls where you can also jump on and ask questions is at 8 p.m. UTC on Wednesday. And then there will be another HODL dot call on Thursday at 7 a.m. UTC if you've missed the other one. And then we always end the week on the Thursday at 12 p.m. UTC with our second of our self-paced calls, and that is for people on chapters 4 to whenever. So jump on if you have the questions. And John will tell you there's something else in the lodge or anywhere actually that's happening today. Possibly. So there you go.
Absolutely. Well, I've just popped it into the chat down below. You guys should be following us on X, previously known as Twitter, because starting this week, today as well, and tomorrow as well as Thursday, we are going to be hosting a live space on X. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with live spaces, it's basically going to be myself and Vicky and whoever else joins, and we can be chatting about some of the headlines from this week's weekly warm-up on that space, along with a whole bunch of other things as well, because we've got some exciting things happening towards the end of this week for Hodlnots, something that Vicky's going to touch on shortly. So if you haven't yet, and you are on X, even if you're not too active, you're going to want to join us. We're going to have a live space. It will not be a Zoom. It will not be video. It's going to be audio, and we are going to be talking about some of the topics within the crypto space, and also allowing you guys to join as well, ask your questions, and interact as well. We'll be launching that. So today at 11 a.m. UTC, that's in an hour and a half from now, we're going to be live on X as well and chatting all things crypto during this week. And yeah, there are a few little surprises along the way. Vicky, tell us a little bit more, perhaps, around what one of those surprises may well be, considering this over here.
Yes, this is a little you've heard it here first teaser. So you've heard it here first. There will be a competition for Hodlnots, and really, I guess anyone that's on X on our calls in the next hour and a half. So we're not going to give many descriptions or details on this call here, but you will hear about it. We'll pop it in the lodge, we'll pop it on social media, and that will be popped on probably Thursday. So it is a little bit of a competition, and you can win a HODL Fire for a month. So it is, you'll see, whoops, you'll see this graphic on Thursday on the social media channels and in the lodge and Bitcoin Trending Forecast channels probably as well.
All right, so lots coming. You better hop to it because all the Christmas, Easter puns are going to be making their way here along. So yeah, thank you for joining us for this week's Hodlnots Weekly Warm-Up, and do catch us on the X Space. Now, before we do that, we're gonna sign off with the weekly thought.
Yeah, well, not a thought this week, but Easter holidays and also the crypto market comes to mind. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So that's a good one for us. But instead of a weekly thought this week, I'm going to put John on the spot and I'm going to give him some rapid fire jokes for Easter. So here we go. First one, what do you call an Easter bunny with fleas?
No idea.
Bugs Bunny. How many Easter eggs can you put into an empty basket?
Uh, all of them.
Just one, because after you put one in, the basket's not empty anymore. what, what do you call an Easter bunny that can't remember anything?
I forget.
Harebrained. And finally, what does the Easter bunny go where does the Easter bunny go to if he loses his tail? Retail shops.
Those are funny. Okay, thanks for joining us. That's awesome. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.